So now it's recording.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I'm okay with starting. I don't want to waste your time. Being a teacher, I'm not good. I'm not about time wasting. So, and Alice, if you notice anything that you want to add in or anything like that, feel free to.
I'm the official ground thumb of the family, so.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
For sure. All right. So before we get started, do you have any questions for me, like about gardening or anything like that? Any curiosities?
I have no idea about that, so go ahead.
All right. So I'll go ahead. I just want to know where we're at first and then go up from there. So
Thank you.
in order to really, depending on what you want to do for your garden, I usually like to start from seed because a lot of the things I like to grow or a lot of the varieties of plants I like to grow, they tend to not be sold at the store, like at Ace Hardware or anything like that. And so I like to get my own seed trays. I got these from Ace. They were less than $5. There's 5 trays and there's 10 spaces. So there's a possibility for planting, 50 separate plants in just these little trays, which is a pretty good deal. And these also break down over time. So that way you are also not contributing to waste, but instead having something that can break down. These are made out of cardboard-like material. And so they break down. You can actually, if you get them moist enough, you can actually just take your plant once it's grown in these a little bit and cut these up into their squares and then plant them in the ground without having to break them.
Oh, just plant like that.
Basically, but
with the cardboard.
The reason I say cut them up though is because you do not want plants to be super close together, like especially plants like squash. They're going to get really big. Cucumbers like to grow very tall. They need a lot of space. Tomatoes can also get pretty bushy and pretty big. So you just want to make sure that you do actually cut these into their little squares. Like this is what they look like. And so you would cut it down the line and then cut each individual row. So you can use these. And again, they were less than $5 at Ace Hardware and pretty awesome. I also got a ton of different seeds here. Let me turn on my camera really quick because I did add myself in the call. All right. For some reason, I'm not popping up there, but that's okay. Oh, I'm on the wrong link. My bad. I was going to show you the types of seeds I got for you in case you were interested in having to get some for yourself. All right. Huh? Oh no, you're good. I was gonna go like this. Okay. Thank you though. Continue. Okay. Wow, it's weird seeing myself. It's like Inception or something. All right. So just to show you what this looks like. Oh, wait a second. I'm like trying to see what it looks like on your side of things because I've never used my phone and then swapped the side of like the, like self-facing camera versus outward facing. So I got a pretty big variety of seeds for you. So there's basil, parsley, oregano, dill, cilantro, and thyme. So these are herbs that you would use for a lot of different dishes in your cooking. They grow pretty easily. There are some things that will need to be grown sooner, like cilantro is really sensitive to heat. And basically what happens is if it gets too hot, your plants say, oh my gosh, we're gonna die, we need to reproduce. And they start making flowers in order to grow seeds. So just be aware that some of these plants, should you choose to grow them yourself, they will not last very long. Or they'll, like when they flower, they quickly die. So just giving you that heads up. I also got you, Roma tomatoes tend to have less liquid in them. They're drier tomatoes, but they still have a really good flavor. And my personal favorite is tomatoes like beefsteak tomatoes. They're really big. They can get like, pretty darn big. Like just to show you what, it could possibly be like. I'm trying to use my hand. I also got honeydew, cantaloupe. What's up?
You want me to hold the phone?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you, though.
All right.
And sugar baby watermelons. These are all varieties of melons that tend to stay a little bit smaller, but they are viney plants. So they do need a lot of space to grow. They need a lot of sun. If you do not give sun, they are not going to be sweet. They're not going to grow, just as a heads up. Tomatoes generally like a lot of sun as well, can handle heat as well. Cucumbers also love the sun. My personal favorite variety of cucumber is Armenian. And they're also known as the serpentine or snake cucumber because they can get over 2 feet in length or about that long. Huge cucumbers. Yep, huge cucumbers. And their skin is really thin. So you know how when you eat cucumbers, like cucumber skin can be really thick and not very fun to chew? You will not have that problem with this. It's really soft, easy to eat, quite pleasant to eat actually. And I also got a like more typical variety that you would think of when you think of cucumber, you're like, oh, it has like green bumpy skin. I got that one for you too. These ones tend to stay a little bit smaller from the look of the package. And I'm sure that almost no one has grown tomatillos or maybe has never even heard of them. But if you've ever gone to a Mexican restaurant and you've tried the green salsa, that's what green salsa is made out of, tomatillos. If you want a really easy recipe for how to make green salsa, don't buy it. I will tell you, okay? All you need to do is husk these or take off their shell, and then you boil them until they have turned olive green. And then that's when you know that they are cooked. And you also toss in an onion and a jalapeno while they're boiling. And then once everything is soft, you put it in the blender, put a little bit of salt, done. Like that's it. It's really easy. If you want any other kind of cooking recipes or how to use the stuff in your garden, feel free to ask at any time. I got green tomatillos and purple tomatillos. They are the same species, they're just a different variety. So they are very closely related, they're just a little different. It's like the same thing as saying, oh, a dog is a dog, but Chihuahua is a different breed or like variety, because they can still, reproduce, but they're a little bit different in that, like with tomatillos, like they are very, very closely related, again, like dogs would be or cats would be, but there isn't that problem of like, oh, like they won't be able to grow fruit or anything like that. Sorry if I'm not making sense. I stumbled over my words. And then I also got a plant that I tried out last year that I really liked. It's called the ground cherry. It's a cousin of the tomatillo and a cousin of tomatoes. These are sweeter. These only get about like the size of a cherry, and you can actually make jam with them. But yeah. And they do kind of have this pineapple-y taste. They are sweeter. They're just a fun plant to grow. And they stay low to the ground usually. And yeah, they stay quite small. They're easy to maintain, just need a lot of sun. There's also squash. I got 2 packets of zucchini because I figured that would be a popular plant. And zucchini doesn't get too big, but it does it grows from the base. Instead of being a vine that climbs, it spreads out at its base. And I also got yellow squash as well. And last but not least, I love growing bell peppers in my garden actually. But I got California Wonder bell peppers. Supposed to do very well in this area, I guess. And then jalapenos for those of us who need a little bit of spice in our life. All right. So far, are there any questions for me?
Yes, Lola. About season. Are they seems like all the summer vegetables? Are you talking about in the plant in summer or the spring?
So when it comes to these plants, you really want to, sorry, did you finish your question, Kiyomi? Did you finish your question?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, just I'm wondering about seasoning. You know, season. Where should I plant? When should I plant? So
It really depends on your seeds. Like what kind of plants are you wanting to grow?
right now I don't do winter vegetable like a broccoli or cabbages or like a green leafy,
Hmm.
dark leafy, like a chad or collard. Those
Gotcha.
are things like winter vegetables.
The thing is with winter vegetables
Uh-huh.
is that you want to start those seeds like in November or
Oh,
even
okay.
December. So you can grow them now still, but when you think about when they're going to be mature or
Uh-huh.
ready to eat,
Uh-huh.
it'll be when it starts to warm up, getting into the 70s and 80s. And usually when it gets to be that temperature, that signals to the plants. And it's also because of the length of day. It's not just, oh, it's hot. It's, oh, we have more sunlight.
Uh-huh.
And so the plants say to themselves, oh, it's time to start flowering now because it's out of our normal season. And so they are more likely to flower sooner if you plant at a later time.
Oh, I see.
So go ahead.
During the winter time in the January, February, should no planting at all?
Yeah, if I were you, I would try to have plants in the ground by like late December or January. But again, if anybody has other advice, feel free to pipe up and say something. So that's why, like I'm saying, like even though these are spring, summer plants, that's why we're planting them now, because it takes weeks, if not months, for you to get fruit or vegetables from them.
Oh.
So you have to, when it comes to planting, you just gotta plan ahead, way ahead, like
We had.
months in advance.
Oh, I see.
Like I planted all my bell peppers, tomato seeds. I did that all today.
Today?
I did that in trays like these. Yeah, as long as you do it before February ends, I think you should be okay. It's just when you plant seeds, you just want to make sure you plant ahead of time, because again, if you plant too late, they're little itty bitty babies. Like, and let's imagine that there's a heat wave that comes in, or the sun becomes really, really strong all of a sudden. It's going to kill those plants.
I see.
So you want to make sure that they're established, that they're growing really well before that kind of thing happens. Good question.
Okay.
So I have another question. So if I am a super beginner, so you showed it all the seed, which one will be make me feel accomplished, succeed? Which one is the best to start?
I think tomatoes are the easiest to grow.
Tomato, yeah.
Tomatoes are easiest. Those things can
So
take.
you show the 3 different kind of tomato, right? Which one is?
I got 2 different kinds. There's
Uh-huh.
Roma, which I think you will get more of personally. Like I think that you'll get more out of this one than of this one. In my experience, beefsteak, they don't produce as much, but the fruit is bigger. So
How
it
about
really
that?
depends on what you
Okay.
want. Do you want a drier fruit and get more of them? Or do you want a wetter tomato that is bigger?
Then I want more.
So you would want to go with aroma, the San Marzanos.
That one will be easier then.
Yep, and squash are also easy to grow, and cucumbers. Those are
Yeah.
like the three. Those are the 3 main types that I tell people, like
Cucumber.
stick with those.
Yeah. Cucumber, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. So the ones that you do that don't do well in the fruit,
哦
like
等一下
cilantro and
俾咗老爺一張，我一張。
February.
herbs, do those? Can you just put them in a container and then put them inside once it gets hotter? Will they continue to grow or not really?
So in case you did not hear the question was with like herbal plants like cilantro that doesn't like a lot of heat. Like, can I put it in a container and then bring it inside? My advice is that for those of us who are like, I really want to grow herbs, I really, really want them, I'm going to use them. Try to find a place outside that is well shaded, but has partial sun. But if you find that it does get too hot, or if it's going to be really hot, that like if you know in advance if it's going to be super hot, then yeah, bring it in. Like that's why it's nice to have a container. That way you can have like a bowl underneath it or a plate if possible. most trays, not trays, most pots come with trays underneath them anyway when you get them from the store. And that's what they're for, is just to catch any extra water that falls out of the soil. So it depends on what you want, honestly, Sarah. Like you could keep it outside because this is nice weather. But when it gets to those hot summer days, just consider putting it in the shade, I guess.
So is it like the sun more than the heat kind
It's
of?
it totally has to do with how many hours of light we get. That's what signals to plants like, hey, I need to start flowering now. Like this is the time is right.
Okay.
So rather than like, oh, it's like super hot. It's like yeah, it's more sunlight.
And can you clip off the seed like when they start going to seed? Because I cut my mint
Yeah,
last summer,
yeah.
even in that super hot summer,
Mhm.
because I just was like going and clipping it regularly and watering it a lot.
For
so
sure.
like, does that work with other stuff?
So when you have herbal plants and they start flowering, if you cut off those flowers, the plant will last longer. And try not to like when it comes to plants and seeds and all that, just be sure to feel the soil, like get a feel for it. If it feels super wet, like, oh, that's really wet, that's enough. You do not need to water it anymore. But once it feels kind of moist, then you're good. But if it feels straight up dry within the first like inch of soil, that's way too dry. They need to have moist soil. So yeah, you can supplement the heat or something like that with just a little bit of extra water. Just don't water too much because it, as weird as this sounds, plants can drown like we do. Plants can drown. So when we give them too much water, they drown and they can't breathe. They need oxygen too.
Oh,
Good question, Sarah.
oh.
For sure. What other questions do we have before I give any more tips? And I will demonstrate how to actually plant it. So in case you're like, I just want to get to that, Laura, gosh, let's just get to it. That's okay with me. Any questions? And I forgot to say hi, Stacy. Welcome. Happy to see you.
Thanks for the class.
Hey,
Did we do this? Was it last year or the year before?
We did it last year and I gave it a handout and then we did it in the back of, we did it in Carrie's backyard.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to remember. It seems longer than that.
It totally does, right?
Oh.
Did your, by the way, Stacy, I forgot to follow up with you, but did your plants grow okay or did they not pop up?
ate already.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you. I figured they wouldn't grow in Davis because we go to my parents' house so often.
Yeah.
So I took them to my mom's house and I grew them there and they did great. So
That's awesome.
yeah, we were able to eat everything that I pretty much planted. And then my mom decided to grow some other stuff. And I think it was a zucchini or something we forgot to pick. And that thing got huge.
Yeah.
it
Oh,
was
zucchini gets so big when we like we can totally look through zucchini, and then the next day there's this huge like foot long one, right?
Yeah, it was insane. I've never seen it that big.
So if you ever find a zucchini like that, if you grow zucchini this year, one thing that I've done with the huge ones is they're called zucchini boats. And so you scoop out all the seeds and you put in like meat, tomatoes, corn, cheese, bake it in the oven for a little bit, and it tastes amazing.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's really easy to make. Really, really easy.
You'll have to, are you gonna send out like a email kind of with like the paper info that you gave out last year too?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can totally do that. And I can give basic recipes for things that I've done with my stuff too. That way
Yeah,
you know what to be creative with. Sounds good. And a lot of the meals that I like to make are usually pretty low carb, or if they are naturally lower carbohydrate, because I find that when I eat a lot of carbs, my body gains weight really easily. And so I have to be very careful with the things that I eat. Thanks for laughing at my pain, Corrine. Gosh, just kidding. Just kidding. So I try to eat what I can from my garden so that I make use of the land and also be more aware of what I put into my body. And that definitely has helped me manage my weight a lot more easily, because it's just making sure you take care of yourself too. So
Yeah.
all right. Thank you for sharing your. I was just like, I wonder if Stacy's stuff grew last year. So thank you for following up with me on that, Stacy.
Oh no,
Wow.
thank you. It tastes so much better than store bought, especially tomatoes. They're like not even a thing.
So do you know why tomatoes taste better homegrown?
I mean, they must pick them way too early or something for the store.
They do pick them. Yes, they do. I remember in one of my plant science classes in college that we were taught that tomatoes, they do pick them quite early, and then they treat them with, I think it was ethylene, because ethylene causes maturing in fruit. And it's naturally produced by bananas. So if you ever are just like, oh, I want to mature my plants, my fruit a little bit faster if I need it to ripen, put it next to a banana for a few days, it'll be better. it'll taste a bit
interesting.
more ripe. So
How about the banana? How do you quickly ripe a banana? Nowadays, all green banana, a lot of banana.
So how you quickly
Yeah.
ripen a banana, from tips I've
Mhm.
heard of, is put it into a plastic bag, but they do sweat. So maybe try a brown paper bag,
One paper bag.
because then the gases stay inside of the bag instead of being released. So if you want
Oh.
it to mature faster, maybe try that out.
Oh,
I
really?
think I've done that and I think it's worked.
Really?
It doesn't
Okay.
like go like, oh, bam, tomorrow, oh, wow, it's brown. No, that's not how it works. It does still take time for it to ripen, but it will ripen at a faster rate.
Well, I'll try that.
Yeah.
I put that next to the oven.
I know, right? So
I,
I forgot to mention that if at any point you're like, Laura, that's not right or whatever, or you want to share some other tip or whatever, feel free to say something. I'm no pro. I don't claim to be a professional. I'm just a home gardener that's been one for
Yeah.
a few years. So
Hey Laura, this is Sarah.
how's it going?
Your point on ethylene. Ethylene's actually produced by every plant. It's what causes leaves to senesce from trees and stuff. So it's not like it's a terrible chemical that was treated. You know, your tomatoes are treated by. Just vine ripened produce in general tastes
Mhm.
way better. So yeah, just your tomatoes treated with ethylene from the store. Just it's safe. It's fine. They naturally produce that. So just gonna point that out.
Thank you for adding that. That was something that I had forgotten to mention. So thank you for completing that thought. My thoughts get really off course quickly because that's just my brain. That's what happens when you have like ADD and stuff. But yeah, it totally doesn't affect the health of the plant or not the plant, but the fruit. It just helps it mature faster. So thank you for adding that in, Sarah. Are we ready to see a demonstration? Are we ready to see how seeds should be planted? Oh, wow. I saw like the enthusiasm, Corrine. You're like super ready. Okay. All right. What should I plant? What do you want me to plant? Do you need to see the options again?
Maybe Kiyomi, you can pick one. Kiyomi, pick one.
anything.
So again, here are our options.
Zucchini.
I would like to hear what Alice option.
You would like to hear the
Alice.
options?
What is your
Well, just show me anything from
I
the-
couldn't quite hear you, Corrine. What's up?
I mean, I want to hear what Alice orders option.
Oh, Alice. Corrine wants to know what you would pick to like for me to do the demonstration for planting seeds.
What I would guess
Out of the ones that are here.
is one of them trickier than another?
Not necessarily.
What are they most likely to do?
What would you most likely use? Corrine or Kiyomi or Stacy or Sarah, what would you most likely use?
onion. Onion. Do you have onion?
I don't have onions here.
Sorry, I didn't
But-
hear the question. Sorry, I had a
Well,
call.
that's all good. I just asked like which seed should I
Oh,
like demonstrate how to demonstrate how to plant. They're all it's all kind of the same technique.
what
It just
about
depends on the seed depth, like how deep down you should put the seeds.
Do you have any spicy peppers, hot peppers?
Jalapenos, that's the spiciest I got.
Yeah.
All right, jalapenos. I can put up to 10 different plants. Remember, 10 different plants into one tray. So let's pick 10 plants.
plants? Carrots, please.
What'd you say?
Carrot. Carrot. Carrot.
Oh, I can't. I like could not hear you for a little bit. Say it again.
Carrot.
Did you say carrot?
Yes.
Oh, I don't have carrots here.
Oh.
Do you have
Do I have what?
lettuce?
Mm-mm. And sorry that it's echoing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What are
I
our
just had-
options?
So again, here are our options. So there's, oh, sorry that it's sideways. I don't know why. That's weird.
Now you're
Okay, there we go. Okay, we have cilantro, thyme, dill, oregano, parsley, basil, beefsteak tomatoes, Roma, specifically the variety San Marzano, honeydew. This is cantaloupe, watermelon, sugar baby variety, Marketmore, probably more the size of a pickling cucumber, Armenian cucumber, purple and green tomatillos, ground cherry, which is a cousin of the tomatillo, and straight neck or yellow squash, zucchini, and bell peppers.
I would pick zucchini.
Okay, zucchini, all right.
We should
we
do
got two.
a pico mix. So you should do cilantro and Roma tomatoes as well.
All right, so cilantro, Roma tomatoes. Okay, let's pick 6 more. We can also do 2 of each. I don't care. I don't care. Whatever you think is best.
Parsley. Maybe no brainer. Parsley.
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 Okay, we got 5. We want to do maybe two plug trays. That's what they're called. Like 2 spots on here for each plant.
Yeah, do that.
All right. Alice can actually, or Diana, can I have you hold it above so I can demonstrate? Yay! Or like hold it like this, I guess. Because I'm gonna open up the bag of soil. So this bag of soil, I think it costs around $8 and it's 1 cubic foot. It's not going to take up a bunch of space. So if you do get a lot of 1 cubic foot bags, just be aware you'll need to buy more. So
So is it better to buy a big one and share it than to,
I mean, unless like it really depends on how much you're planning on doing. I mean, you're going to use this soil to beef up your soil at home or fill containers. So just tie it up when you're done. That's really what you want to do. You want to keep that soil. It helps to have like a similar soil that they have in their pots and mix it up with the existing soil in the land. Otherwise, they're kind of going into shock and it'll just make the transition a little bit harder for your plants. So just as a tip. Feel free to come over here, Alice,
okay.
if you can. So I have a gardening trowel. Depending on how fancy you want to be, these don't cost much at gardening stores. So I have my seed plug tray. I'm going to fill it up with soil all the way to the top, and I'll tell you the reason why in a bit.
Something,
Did it go? Did it?
it went to an icon. Oh, there you're back.
All right. So it looks all messy, right? That's okay. That's perfectly okay that it's a little messy. Because here's what we're going to do. Whenever we plant seeds, we want to make sure we read the label on the back. There are going to be specific instructions on how deep to plant your seeds. So just as an example, it says planting depth, or how deep you should plant the seed, 1/4 inch. So that's not much at all. This is an inch, like about your first knuckle. You want to do 1/4 of that. And that's how deep your plants, your seeds should go. So that's cilantro. Cilantro is 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Let's see, 1/4 inch. 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch to an inch. And this is the squash. So squash, because they're bigger seeds, they need to be planted deeper. Plants can get sun damage. Right? Like seeds, sorry, seeds can get sun damage. So if you are not careful and do not plant them deep enough, they will burn and they will not be viable. They will not grow. However, if you plant them too deep, like let's say that you plant some of these and you plant them an inch below the soil, they probably will not surface. They can only put out so much energy before they start to give up, or it will just take longer, depending on if the plant can grow well, or if it grows well in general. You'll find that some plants just, for whatever reason, just will never surface, or like you have to plant a lot of seeds in order to increase the chances of those plants surfacing or coming up to the top. Well, the one thing I should have done, oh man, I forgot to bring a Sharpie. Do you have a Sharpie, Alice?
I do.
Is it okay if I,
Sure.
do you have a Sharpie? Oh, awesome. So one thing I totally forgot to do is label the sides
So
of the
useful.
plugs. You want to make sure you know what you're planting. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait a few weeks or a couple months. And then you'll find out later, like, oh, that's what that was. Because that's what your life is going to be like for a few weeks or a couple months.
Are these all going to be the same, or do you want to label them?
I'll go ahead and label them. Thank you. So I'm going to write on the side and just say squash. And it's not going to be easy to read. I'm sorry. I'm just going to write down squash. That way I know exactly what I planted in that spot. Because again, I don't want to find out what's there after weeks or a couple months. I want to know now so I know if it should pop up soon or not. So I'm going to write down Zook. And that's it. And then I'm going to do the same. Actually, since I know I'm going to do them in rows, if it's all the same to you, I'm just going to write it once and then just plant them right next to each other. Just keep it simple, not have to write as much. And then I'll write down jalapenos or just holla. Ain't no holla back, girl. Sorry. Had to put that out there for those of us who are around my age and listen to Gwen Stefani. All right, Roma tomato. Parsley. And cilantro. And if at any point you have questions, feel free to stop me. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with zucchini first, if it's all the same to you. Open it up.
You should do jalapenos next. I'm at Zach's house and we're about to plant our jalapenos. So
At Zach's house, say hi to Zach.
he's
I
right
miss him.
there.
Zach! Hi! I miss you.
Got seeds
I
ready.
miss you too.
All right, go
Alright.
for it. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all good. Don't worry. It's all good. So I know it may seem kind of wasteful to put 2 seeds in each tray, in each plug. But here's the thing, not every seed will germinate or open up. It will not every seed coat, not every seed is viable or is actually alive. Because in this state, they are dormant or hibernating. And so when you add water to it, it weakens that seed coat and allows the seed to take in water and start growing. And I'm like, mosquitoes, yay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all
I
good.
just slapped this. Sorry, the jiggle.
Can you bring it a little bit closer until we can see the
And
top
see,
of
I
it?
can't see what I'm seeing. So,
Like right here, if you can.
okay. But do you see how I can't?
Oh yeah, that's
I'm
totally
seeing something
understandable.
else.
Here, what about that?
There,
Is that good?
that's great.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them on top for now. And you're gonna see that I'm gonna shove them in there. Like these seeds can take a beating. That's what the seed coat's for. It's to protect the seed, the embryo, so to speak, inside. So don't be like, oh, I need to be all gentle. No, like shove it in there. Like it's okay. That's all right. Shove it in there. It's all good. Pat it down. Okay, pat that soil down. If you do not pat the soil down, if you do not compress it or compact it, the seed will likely come up because of the water that you choose to add to it. That's going to mess things up. Okay, be very diligent with compacting the soil, not like, shoving it down, but at least, give it a good pat. Okay, patting it down, compacting, awesome, great. That's it for the zucchini. Okay, that's it for the zucchini. Jalapenos next. Let's go and do those. And sometimes these seed bags are just a little annoying to open up. That's okay. And I usually use tape because they will not close up again. So you may want to get some tape and just, that way you make sure that seeds stay in their envelope. Otherwise they will fall out. Or fold them over, whatever works for you.
They still look easier than juice packs.
Oh yeah. All right, I'm gonna do 2 seeds again for the jalapenos. Look how much smaller these seeds are. The zucchini, sorry, I forgot to show you what the zucchini seeds look like. Zucchini seeds are much bigger. I feel like I dropped a seed, but that's
You
okay.
did.
So look at how much bigger this is than this. Okay. In my experience, zucchini sprout very easily. Like they just soak up the water and they grow. Peppers, on the other hand, are gonna take a lot longer than you expect. I've waited 5 weeks to see a sprout of a pepper. I'm dead serious, but it's worth it because when you plant seeds yourself, when you grow the plants yourself, they actually do end up spicier. Like the jalapenos, they're more spicy when you grow them at home. Promise. So jalapenos, I'm gonna pat down the soil a little bit first, so it does not sink as much. So I'm just gingerly kind of patting it down, and then I'm gonna set them in the middle so I know where they're gonna be. And then just press down a little bit, and you can, I don't know if you can see the seeds. You can feel free to get right up in there. The seeds are right in the center, and I'm gonna cover them and then press down even more.
Can you use seeds from a pepper?
Yeah.
You just dry them?
Yeah, so in case you did not hear what Alice asked, she said, can I use seeds from a plant? Like, can I reuse stuff from my produce? That's what you were asking, right?
Right.
Yes, of course you can. But again, try drying it first and see if it's even viable. Because you'll find that when you dry your own seeds, sometimes they're not gonna grow anything. Like if they look kind of empty or sunken in, they're not gonna grow. Don't even bother, don't waste your time.
Do you want to know why?
Go
Sorry,
ahead and
I
share.
took plant genetics in my undergrad. So when they grow produce for the grocery store, they take 2 different inbred lines and they cross them together. And it's kind of like crossing, your golden retriever with your poodle.
Mm-hmm.
Cross it together and you're going to get your beautiful golden doodle, and it's going to look just like a golden doodle, exactly how you want it to look. But if you were to cross the golden doodles, with itself, it's not going to look exactly the same. And so they want the produce to look a certain way, so they cross the 2 lines in order to get their specific golden doodle peppers or whatever you want to call them. So
Thank
fun
you.
plant breeding fact.
No, that's really good to know. I've also heard things like they also don't want you planting your own seeds for the future too. And so they're going to try to make the process a little bit more difficult. They want you to rely on them for their specific kind of produce. So when you can't grow from seeds, from your produce, thank you again for Sarah for the explanation. Did you have a question?
I had a question about that for either of you. I don't know. What?
Your shadow.
Oh, sorry.
It's all.
My question is just, are you more likely to be able to use your own seeds if you started from seeds versus something that you bought at the store? Because it seems like, if they're like, I get what you're saying about specifically the ones at the store have been combined.
So you're asking like if I grow the fruit myself and then I use those seeds, I don't see a
Is
reason
it more
why
likely
not.
to work than the ones that you should buy apples at the store and then try to grow those?
It should be able to
So-
work just fine.
So apples are a specific thing. Like we can talk about apples. Apples, the big, beautiful apples we eat at the store are these mutants actually. They're not normal. If you were to grow the seeds, you get more like a crabapple tree. So yes, the seeds that you buy from the store are normally going to be better because they're bred to be seeds you can grow. However, my mom, she has these gourd plants that she just, at the end of the, holiday season or whatever, she just throws the gourds into the garden, and every year they grow. And it's always a new thing because they're being pollinated by who knows whatever the bees are bringing in to pollinate them with. And so we get really interesting and cool gourd combinations of things every year that
Huh.
we can't predict, but they've always something we haven't ever seen in the store. So yeah,
Ah,
you're going to usually do better just buying the seeds from the store.
got it.
Good stuff. All right. I do want to thank you again, Sarah. Like, pop in. I'm dead serious. Don't apologize. You can pop in anytime. I don't get offended really at all. So don't worry. That goes for anyone, actually. Don't worry about interrupting. I want to show you something here. Some of you may think, oh my gosh, whoa. Like, so this is the tomato. These are tomato. They're kind of fuzzy looking seeds. This is the jalapeno. These belong to the same family. Jalapenos, potatoes, eggplant, tomatoes, peppers. They all belong to the same family. So seeds from plants that come from the same family, same genus, same species, the seeds are going to look very similar. So just be aware. Yes, they don't look completely alike, but this just goes to show the importance of labeling. Please make sure to label your stuff, because some seeds look very similar. Like if I were to open up cantaloupe, honeydew, or Armenian cucumber seeds, you would not be able to tell the difference. You would not, promise you. So please just be aware, make sure to label your stuff until you've gotten to the point where you can absolutely tell the difference between each of them. For the tomatoes case, I'm gonna go ahead and plant 3 seeds. And I'm not being wasteful. It's just that tomatoes do produce a lot of seeds for a reason. Some just never grow. And so I'm gonna just protect myself and just put 3 there, smack dab in the middle. Sink them down a little bit, pat them down. Push those suckers down, guys, because we don't want them coming up. We do not want them coming back up. If they come up for air, they're less likely to grow.
So how hard is to, once you've tamped that down, how hard is it to get it 1/4 of an inch? That's quite a,
You can try measuring it yourself. I'm just doing what I do because I've done this for a few years, a few seasons too. So you'll get an eye for it, ladies. Like you will, once you figured out what 1/4 of an inch looks like, you are good. It doesn't have to be exactly 1/4 of an inch. It's just to make sure that plant comes up. That's all it's, that's really the biggest reason why it says 1/4 of an inch. So you have an idea of what you need to plant at what depth. Okay, parsley. I'm gonna be honest here. I suck at planting herbs. Okay, like they do not live for me. They just do not grow for me. So I'm hoping that these pop up, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I just have never had luck with herbs. I'm better at vegetables. That's just that's my talent. So I hope that you have more luck growing herbs. I've grown green onions from stuff that I bought at the store. I just put them in soil, get them to grow back for me, but they don't last forever. Like they do die with time. Is anybody else good at growing herbs? Because I'm not.
I can do cilantro and mint. That's about it.
Sweet. I'm having
we
tough
can
time
grow
with this
mint,
one.
but that's no talent.
Oh yeah, mint.
Yeah.
Like mint grows wherever it wants to. Like it can be a weed. Like at the community garden where I have my plots, we're actually told to not grow any mint because mint
Oh.
can grow. It can just keep spreading, and it's hard to get rid of. Parsley seeds look like this.
Tiny.
If you want to know what a tiny seed looks like, get yourself some carrot seeds. They're not tiny, but they're really, really thin. They're kind of hard to grab. So I'm going to pat the soil down just a little bit. Place them in the center, 2 seeds.
You're shadowing with your.
Oh,
left
thank
hand.
you. And that's about 1/4 inch for me. Like just pressing down that much. And pat them down. All right. Do we have any questions or comments? Anything that's come to mind, ladies? Oh, darn, I forgot to pat it down. That's okay.
Do you want to see our work? We used an egg carton.
Ooh, sure.
Cameras right now.
You can back up.
That's also a really smart idea, using a cardboard egg carton.
Yep, this is what we did.
Sweet.
Yeah,
It looks awesome.
thank you. And we've got all of our different hot peppers. We're gonna make our own hot peppers.
Hey, you guys need to like come get some tomatillo seeds or something.
Get some tape.
Yes, please.
Oh, sounds good.
Like
That way you can make your own green salsa. Really easy to make.
Yeah, I love homemade green salsa.
I planted 12 tomatillo seeds, not seeds, plants last year. And we canned, I think it was over 1 batch of green salsa. So like pints, and like you don't think you'd get that much, but you absolutely do. You just, with tomatillos, you need at least 2 plants. Otherwise they are not gonna, they do not self-fertilize. They do not self-pollinate. So you will need at least 2 plants if you are planning on growing tomatillos. And last but not least, cilantro. More commonly known in the world as coriander. Oops, dropped a seed. That's okay.
So also fun fact, the cilantro is actually the leaves and the seeds are the coriander. So when you're putting coriander in your Mexican, your fajitas or whatever, it's ground up cilantro seeds. Now you know.
I love plants. They're so cool. And is it okay if I use your hose?
Absolutely, or I was
Okay.
gonna ask you if you wanted me to get a watering can.
That would be awesome, actually.
All right.
Go ahead and hold this.
Do you know where the watering can is there?
Okay, before we start watering, I need to give you a few tips because this is where a lot of people get it wrong. Okay, I'm not trying to sound mean, I'm just being straight up. When it comes to watering your plants, especially when they're in this stage, you risk losing them, and because they can get moldy. They can actually, I've had mushrooms grow in like seed plug trays like this. So they just pop out of nowhere. Go figure. Anyways, just be aware that there's not really much of a place for these to like really drain the water. There's a hole at the bottom, but that's not really enough in order for it to actually drain. What I like to use actually, and I invite you to get one, is a spray bottle. I fill that up with water. I spray the top because that's where the seeds are anyway. There's no point. There's no, at this stage, there's no reason for you to be drowning it with water. Honestly, if I were you, I would get a spray bottle, spray it until it looks completely wet on top. And that will give you more results than if you soak the entire tray. Do you have any other questions about watering? Any curiosities? Go ahead, Kiyomi.
How often should I watering? Once every
Well,
dry-
with seeds like this, if you're gonna keep them in trays like this, you want to keep them indoors if you can, because at this point it's still too cold. Seeds like warmth. There are things called seed warming trays that you can put underneath trays like this, and they will be just fine.
So
But in order to save yourself the expense, just keep these. Like I have TV tables that I use, or if you go to Safeway, they sell those aluminum trays. Put this in those aluminum trays, and then you can use that as a, hey, it's not going to leak on my table or on my counter. And that way it stays nice and warm inside. And when it's grown, when it's matured, I think they suggest up to 6 inches. They can, plants can live in here. It's not recommended because they can get what is called root bound. And that can actually cause some pretty big growth deficits, like they can stop growing as well if they are root bound. So
Rebound.
just be aware of that. Once they get to a certain height, they really should be transplanted.
Okay.
Thank you for your question.
Um,
So I'm going to go ahead and water. And thank you, Alice, for grabbing the watering can. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it over here. Wait, let me see if I can, let me bend the camera down a little bit. You want to be gentle, even if it's drop by drop, that's okay. You do not want to just throw a bunch of water on there, because again, you risk your seeds coming back up. So I'm going to do it nice and slow. That was a little faster than I expected. So I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. Again, drop by drop is better than like a ton of water just flowing out. And some of the water is actually leaking out, which tells me that the soil is starting to fill up. It's starting, man, I'm forgetting the word just now. I love soil. And when it comes to planting seeds and having plants, it's always good to have kind of vague knowledge of soil texture and soil science. Man, I'm forgetting the word. I had it earlier today. I apologize. You just want to make sure that again, most of the water stays near the top, especially at this stage, because there's no reason for it to be full of water. They have no roots at this stage. So don't just drown it with water. It's okay that the water stays closer to the top. If it drains a little bit, cool, like awesome. But it should not be leaking water all underneath. You should not be doing that. Just take it nice and slow. Let me go ahead and show you what it looks like. This is what I'm going to leave it at, and maybe spray it with some water when I get home. Let me see if this helps. So it's a little bit darker. It's a little moist to the touch. Awesome. That's okay. It should not be overflowing with water. So again, I did that to every one of these little plug trays, these little plugs, and a lot of things will usually sprout within 2 to 3 weeks. But again, peppers, I've waited 5 weeks and then one finally popped up. Just be patient. And keep in mind, and I'm not saying this to guilt trip you, but if you are taking on the responsibility of taking care of plants, you are the steward of those plants. Think of them as your children. They have spirits just like we do. They need love, they need nurturing, they need food, which brings me to my next point. I know that fertilizer sounds really good, like getting chicken manure, getting cow manure and all that. I use this. I use what's called pelleted plant food, and I'll show it to you. It looks kind of like little rocks. Looks like little pebbles, but it's actually plant food. This is meant to be slow releasing. So it releases nutrients over time. The main nutrients that plants need are nitrogen, phosphorus, and dang it, potassium. That's what it was. I was like, it's not calcium. I was like, it starts with something like that. I was thinking about potassium. My bad. So just be aware that your plants will have different needs. But all plants need NPK. You'll usually see that on soil or fertilizer because those are the macronutrients that plants will need. And again, slow releasing fertilizers are better than fertilizers that give a lot of nutrients at the beginning because eventually you'll need to replace it. I use this twice in a growing season. Once I've transplanted them, once I've moved them into actual, the land soil kind of thing. And then once again, when they start fruiting or flowering, depending on the plant. And you can get this kind of food, plant food at Ace or Home Depot, anywhere where plants are sold. So I'm not going to put this in right now because again, there are no roots. There's no point in putting this in the ground now. No point at all. In fact, if you put too much of this, it will actually burn the soil, burn the roots. It will kill the plant. So just be careful. There are specific instructions on the back of bags like these, and it will tell you how much you should use in a certain amount of surface area. All right, ladies, that's really all I've got. And I see that I have a chat message. Let me go and check that really quick. Do you have any questions for me? Any curiosities? Sorry, Corinne sent a message saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to go. Thanks so much, Laura. I love you 3000." For those of us who like Marvel movies. All right. What else can I help you with? We've been on the call for about an hour now. I don't want to take much of your time, but I do want to answer questions if you have any, or if I don't have the answers to the question, I will do my best to research it and give you an answer later. Are you trying to ask a question, Kiyomi?
No,
Let me see
I'm
if I can
thinking.
hear you better with my phone. Sorry.
I'm thinking what it is.
What was your question?
No.
Sorry about the noise stuff. All right. If we're good, if you find that you have questions later on, send me a text. Number is 714-595-8478. It's also on LDS Tools in case you have any other questions.
Okay.
But this stuff will be here at Alice's house for you to stop by and get what you need. And please, sisters, I got all these trays. I got all these seeds. Use them. Like, we don't want things to sit around for a year, because the longer the seeds sit, the less likely they are going to be able to actually grow into plants. So try to use them as soon as you can. All right. Anything else before we wrap things up?
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Thank
I
you
hope
very
it was informative, and thank you again for coming. Thank you, Sarah, for your tips and tricks and the info that I totally skipped out on. Appreciate
You're
it.
doing a presentation. You're doing great.
Oh, thank you. I was like, oh, I hope this is coming off okay. I'm not using like words that are not understood by everybody, because sometimes scientific language can be confusing. All right, Alice or Diana, did you want to say anything before we wrapped it up? Okay.
Things
Are we
on the
done?
Sunday school site.
Okay,
So this is, if you didn't get everything, you can go back and hear it again.
sounds good.
Thank you so much.
For sure.
Round
Thank
of
you.
applause.
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate you being here.
much. Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.
For sure. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Have an
Yeah.
awesome weekend.
You too. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.